4, 3, 2, 0.
Everybody, welcome to Problem Solver Politics. I'm your host, Cardon Ellis, here with Mark Murphy.
Hey, attempting to offer some representation from the compassionate side of life. Unfortunately, it's also considered fake news periodically, but we do remember that our party of a youth left us, and we were left drifting and had to claim to be a Democrat.
Representing the fake news, but compassionately fake news, Mark Murphy. No.
And we're here.
All right, today is going to be an awesome show. I still need to get some, man, I've said this 3 weeks in a row, and it's killing me that I don't have an amazing stadium, arena rock, just total crowd clap soundbite. I promise by next week we will get that going because we are fired up. We got an awesome show today. Me and Mark in the first segment, really fast, have to go over some of these current events. And then we got Bill Miranda, Councilman Bill Miranda coming on in. He's a good-looking devil.
Well, somebody's got to be in this room.
Yeah. Him and Cameron Smythe, man. I hate having those guys on the show sometimes. They're too good-looking. It's just like, I don't want a Facebook Live broadcast. You know, you're taking all the attention.
The engineer just cut us off. You do know that. You know.
That's funny. So, okay. We have got a, what a great subject to speak on a show called Problem Solver Politics about than immigration.
Absolutely.
And what an explosive week on immigration. Woo! And if there is anything done in a bipartisan fashion in this country, it is the failure of figuring out a decent immigration policy. So I see Mark has come to the table completely prepared. And by prepared, he means reading the entire article in Time magazine.
Hey, man, it's a lot of research to dig this stuff out. They mail it to me and make me read it. But more importantly, I also brought some other documents and been doing my study. But I will completely agree, this is not a failure of one party. This is truly previous administrations and this administration not coming to terms with a problem that we've been wrestling with for close to 300 years as a country. We should have figured a lot of this key stuff out, and we have not.
Yeah. So we're going to dig deep here. We got quotes from actual ICE guys that will remain nameless in Santa Clarita. As I said, Mark's done his homework because Time magazine is obviously as good as it gets.
Hey, come on. What else do you need?
And we also going to have Bill himself. I was so impressed with Bill Miranda. The reason why I called him up was because I think he carries himself very, very well. I think he walks that line in between two different kinds of cultures well. I think he's a good statesman, you know what I'm saying? But also, I loved how he composed himself during the SB 54 arguments, and I love when he got up, and we'll talk about this later. I don't want to take the wind out of his sails, but I love when he spoke up and he said, for those of you that are opining on behalf of the Latino community, you don't know the Latino community like I do. And that was very powerful. Right. And it's very not very often that you find a statesman who can actually walk those two lines. I think Reagan did it. I think JFK did it. I think the vast majority of the founding fathers did it, except for Ben Franklin, who was constantly getting kicked out of court for philandering about with the Duke of Archibald and whatever's wives and stuff. So I have a lot of respect for that. I called him up. And what's so interesting is I'm actually amazed at the gutsiness of some of these politicians we have gotten on the show lately, Mark.
Absolutely. They're willing to speak their mind and do something about it. I want to do a shout out, too, for I know it's because he did something. We challenged him on the show when he was here, when Congressman Steve Knight, we challenged him about what were you going to do on the infrastructure? What can you knock down the blockage of Washington? He's been working on something for 8 months to 9 months to try and get us some funding for some major road work. And lo and behold, within 2 weeks, he gets a $47 plus or $46 million grant to supplement the others that he's got. So we're going to get wider roads between the intersection of the 14 and the 5 and Castaic and additional roads. He got funding that we needed to solve a problem. A shout out to you, Congressman, for taking care of it.
Well, so true. We had Cameron Smythe, who's come on a couple of times, and doesn't even ask for questions ahead of time, just says go for it. Steve Knight, because so many of these politicians are so mousy. They're so just I want the media to love me, and I want people to like me, and they're wanting to know all of the questions ahead of time and this and that. All three of these guys, 3 for 3, have just come on and just said, you know what, let's talk. Throw me whatever you want to throw me. I mean, that was pretty gutsy on their behalf. So, yeah. Props.
And they don't always, I don't always agree with their viewpoints, and I've got to tell you, other things that the congressman did, I don't agree with. But he took care of us as a community. He did what we elected him to do for that particular action, and congratulations for doing that.
Okay, cool. Congratulations. Yes, we commend you. So now let's get started really fast. Today, the topic is going to be the immigration policies. It's not going to be a rant show. We're not going to talk about how it's all the fault of X, Y, or Z person, even though we know it's the Democrats' fault.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just going to put this out there because some of my Republican conservative friends have been very upset about this. And Democrats, we have to be very careful. I mean, come on. When you sit there and you say the Republicans don't like immigrants and that the problem was caused by them. Okay, wait a second. First off, the previous administration sent back significantly more people at the border that were returned to their home country than any of the previous administrations. In other words, a Democratic administration just quietly turned them around and sent them back. As a matter of fact, this current administration hasn't yet caught the numbers that they had in previous years. So we need to be very aware of that. Secondly, if you want to point a finger at a Democratic president, look at Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who I happen to love for what he did for this country. Not just winning one of the most difficult wars that we've ever faced and pulling us out of a deep depression, but he absolutely incarcerated over 1 million of our citizens simply because of their background, the fact that they were Japanese Americans. And that's unforgivable. And we've had rulings done by administrative parties that have looked at it and said he was wrong, they shouldn't have done it, but they did. So come on, Democrats, it's not just a Republican problem.
Yeah, but I also do have to say this immigration debate is so it's so much more difficult to talk about sometimes because it is deeply personal to everybody.
Yes.
I mean, I look at you coming in here and you have the Irish in America book right here.
I am proud of this as an Irish American. I'm a Murphy, and I was married to a McGrath, and I've got a Boyle in the family and a Sheehan in my family. I mean, we are into this Irish American stuff. But more importantly, I've got a lot of stories about what my ancestors did and how hard it was to get into this country. And if you want to know something, we Irish were not exactly loved. I mean, come on. There were signs.
Unpack your white privilege. Unpack it right now.
God, Irishmen need not apply. I mean, first off, we were uneducated in many cases. We were poor. We didn't bring
redheaded.
Cash. Yeah, we didn't bring. We were fair skinned. We were the only thing we were good for was sunburn. But the thing that was, we came in. We started working. We fought wars for you. More importantly, because we were pretty good soldiering. But also, we came in. We built railroads. We ran crime syndicates. We ran bootlegging. We did a lot of other fantastic things. But more importantly,
at least 30% of the whiskey in Tennessee was made by Irish people. So Prohibition owes it.
Hey, part of my family was involved. But we also cleaned up our own mess. I was always told about that story. But more importantly, we then we educated our families. We worked hard. The Irish are now the wealthiest group in America. The wealthiest. Now, think about that. We are the power of America. You see, we can tell to Irish jokes now because we're in the top seat.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as I was saying, it is so deeply personal to everybody because, I mean, I'm looking at you and you have the Irish in America, and I know you commented in our pre-show that you love this book because your grandfather, I believe you said, is in it, right?
No, a relative.
A relative.
One of my relatives is in this book. I mean, and it's funny because he taught my dad how to shoot. His name was Audie Murphy, the most highly decorated combat veteran of World War II. And what makes it fun was Audie's family, they had no money. He was living in a railroad car. What was so funny about it is my family went out to see him because he had no money. They were taking food, clothing out to his family. And quite frankly, they didn't like my dad's family because they were wealthy Texans. They were from the big city of Dallas. Now, They didn't have any money. They were just willing to share what little they had. But Audie did show my dad how to shoot. And there he is. And what's so good about that? You know, my dad had 4 Purple Hearts and had a career in Special Forces, but he was a very good shot.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got you here within just generations of immigrants. On my mother's side, we go all the way back, Mayflower style. But I'm the closest living relative to Clara Barton, the founder of the American Red Cross, besides me and my mother, blood relatives.
That is cool. That is very cool. Now, mine were only captured by pirates back in the 1600s on my mother's side, but they were poor English people who left because they were oppressed. They couldn't get jobs. Yeah. They weren't very educated, but they heard they would land in this great country.
Yeah. So, so the on my left side, we go back here a long time, but on my father's side, no. My grandfather, Mitch Tomacek. Actually, I should be, if I were following birth names, I should be called Cardon Tomacek. However you pronounce that in the
so
in
what
the Polish
left-leaning, communist nation
what
did
Soviet
that?
bloc country produced this? Actually, it's very interesting. During Blitzkrieg, his city was one of the earliest cities attacked, and back then they were conscripting the army. If you were young and you were caught, they didn't kill you. They actually forced you to go fight in Africa because the war of the Germans in Africa was still going on. And they were taking all the young men. And my father left, and this is the last side note before we'll actually leave on our first break. My grandfather left a note saying, "Mother, I could never fight for the Nazis." And he fled, was imprisoned in Czechoslovakia, in Spain, and then escaped both prisons, made it to go fight for the Polish Brigade in the RAF before immigrating to the United States of America in 1954. And he could never return home because he died when I was 5 years old in 1988, months before the Berlin Wall fell. And when my biological father actually found the family address, did his genealogy, did his family research, hired a Polish translator, went back, quote, home, apparently upon getting out of the taxi, my great-grandmother, who is still alive, burst into tears and started yelling in Polish, "My great-grandson, my great-grandson." And she ran to the front door, and the translator said, "She recognizes you." And he says, "How?" And she said, "Because he looks just like my son." You know, and so this touches everybody in the deepest way.
Yeah,
we're
a nation of immigrants.
And is everybody's business. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to have Bill Miranda in the studio when we come back. So make sure you don't touch that dial and get your conservative and your liberal friends to get angry and text us questions. This is Problem Solver Politics. See you in a minute.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
This is Kyle Jennings taking a look at your Santa Clarita weather forecast. Sunny skies this weekend. Temps expected to hover around the mid-80s, touching the low 90s. Overnight low is going to be in the mid to low 60s. But a beautiful, sunny, warm weekend here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Diamond Rio is coming to the College of the Canyons Performing Arts Center with special guest Savannah Burrows. Get your tickets now. Still a few left, but get them quick at canyonspac.com.
How did you become addicted? A friend? Were you at a party and someone said, "Hey, try this"? Then you got the cold sweats and started shaking. And the more you did it, the more it didn't work. So you switched to the needle. Now you're a train wreck. Drinking, drugging, broke. Your family hates you. And you hate you. Get out of your hell on earth now. Call the Detox and Treatment Helpline today for immediate help. In many cases, your insurance may cover the costs. We can't guarantee it, but we can guarantee we have what you need to change your life for the better. Pick up your cell phone and call right now. 800-694-1135. 800-694-1135. 800-694-1135. That number again, 800-694-1135.
The SCV Pregnancy Center has provided compassionate, personalized, and confidential care for 30 years.
Angela Bennett, CEO.
Positive urine test does not confirm pregnancy. It only indicates you may be pregnant. Only a doctor can diagnose and confirm pregnancy. If you used a home test and need answers immediately, the SCV Pregnancy Center will provide immediate pregnancy test results and uses the latest technology to confirm and diagnose pregnancy. The center specializes in pregnancy testing and confirmations. Make your appointment today.
Visit scvpregnancycenter.org.
All services free and confidential.
All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. We are in the studio with Bill Miranda.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Just if the city council never works out, you could always go back to being like, an announcer or something.
That's right,
you
like
know?
you.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Listen, I do have one request.
Sure.
And I'm going to make it to the public out there listening, the hundreds of thousands of people in Santa Clarita that are listening to the show right now.
Uh-huh.
Call your friends, call your neighbors. Bill Miranda's on the show. Council member Bill Miranda, you're not going to want to miss this show. I have to get higher ratings than Cameron Smythe got. That's my mission.
Well, the 5 guys who listened to him said that they will listen tonight.
So I beat him already.
So you beat him already. So the numbers are up.
That's funny, man. That's funny. So here we go. What a week. I cannot believe this week. You came to the table.
He's pointing to Mike Murphy.
I'm pointing to Mike Murphy.
Mark,
okay.
Come on.
You came.
Not all the Irish are Mike. I am the son of a Joseph, who's
Wait, did I
the
just call you
son
Mike?
of a Tim, who's the
sorry,
son
Mark.
of a Michael, who's the son of a John. And yes, everybody in Ireland has the same names. But
That's funny. So, okay, so you came today pretty angered about the news that came out yesterday that Donald Trump supposedly wants to get rid of a bunch of judges. Currently, there's about 300 judges that are processing over 600,000 immigration cases. And in order to truncate the process, he suggested in a tweet something. So tell us what's got you all fired up.
Well, I'm fired up because he said, forget the rule of law and the fact that this is a nation of laws. He said, when somebody comes in, we must immediately, with no judges or court cases, bring them back from where they came. This from the president of supposedly a law-abiding country. I don't care what party he's from. We are supposed to follow the laws, and it is not easy
Wait a
to
minute,
put
wait a
that
minute, wait a
through.
minute. I am so sorry for the interrupt, but when you say follow the law, and then you turn around and favor things that are not following the law, there's a little bit of hypocrisy hanging in there.
Just because I want to return
Hey,
all...
you can't fire back or you're racist.
I want the
No, you can fire back.
descendants of
I'm
England,
cool.
if they're only one generation away from being an English or Norwegian, they should be returned to their host country, like Mr. Trump. But, because, see, I can go back to my English descendants back in the 1600s. I can go back to my Irish from the 1800s. I can go back to my Germans from the 1840s, most of which fought for the military at some point in time, some of which snuck into this country. But I also know that many of them, they didn't have to be considered legal or not legal. They were simply immigrants. And some of them were not welcome to this country. Others were. But for the majority of them, no, they were not welcome to this country.
So hold on. Let me unpack this a little bit, because I'm going to quote Newt Gingrich right here in analyzing Donald Trump and his tweets. Newt Gingrich said it the best in an interview once, where he said, Donald Trump has a tendency to use 3 words when he should use 10. Okay?
Oh, I think it's the other way. He uses 3 words when he should use none.
Well, okay. Well, what I would like to say here, and the way I interpreted this, is we teach police officers, okay, this concept of probable cause. That, yes, there is a court system, and yes, people have rights of habeas corpus, and yes, everybody's going to have their day in court. And enshrined, and I believe what is the 4th Amendment, is this concept of you have to have a speedy trial in which you have a chance to see your accuser, and you also have a chance to present evidence in your own behalf, and that we can't have illegal searches and seizures and so on and so forth, right? So, circumventing that, if there is an immediate need, is this idea of probable cause. My friend interviewed to be a Glendale PD once, and they sat him down and they asked him this question. They said, okay, what would you do in this scenario? Think fast. You get an emergency call of domestic violence. You open up the door, and there is a man charging at a woman with a knife. and he is 1 second away from getting to her, what would you do? And he asked me that question. I said, well, I'd take out my gun and I'd shoot him. And he said, wow, that's not what I said, but that's the right answer. And he said, you would have passed that test. And I said, why? And he said, he explained to me that he's like, once the man has raised the knife in an aggressive fashion, he's already showed probable cause of a lethal intent. The only way to stop would be to show equally lethal force, right? Problem passed.
I just thought this was a martial arts demonstration going on in the house. It's my house. That's the way things are.
Yeah, no. So let's put this into the border security argument. When you have people trying to hop the fence, break the law, go in the airplane, whatever, all of a sudden this concept of trial is somewhat circumvented because they're in the act, and the probable cause, if caught, is you're breaking the law and trying to enter the country illegally. So I don't see why an immediate deportation of somebody caught in the act is considered by some massive civil rights violation, because just like the guy trying to stab didn't get his day in court before the cop shot him due to probable cause, how is Trump's tweet so angering when these people are caught in the act on the side of the road, fresh off the boat, trying to enter the country illegally? I don't see why this is angering so many civil rights people. And by the way, I'm a huge civil rights person. You can actually look up the court cases I've been involved in. You know what I'm saying? With the county of Los Angeles, I'm a huge civil rights guy. So how is this angering you? And Bill, what's your perspective with in comparison to what I just said? I'm curious.
Well, I'm going to throw this in first. It's not that it's a violation of civil rights. These people have broken the law in many cases. Many of them actually turn themselves in when they come to the border. So it's not necessarily that they were caught climbing a wall. The issue is, are we a country that welcomes, as a nation of immigrants, future immigrants? Have we created a system of justice but also of freedom? Do we want people to say, this country is a land of opportunity? Now, having given that, how do we find a way to bring people, as many people as possible, into the country to continue building us in the future, and do it in a way where we try and follow it in a manner where we're able to possibly get rid of those which are going to cause damage, or which are corrupt, or which are breaking the laws? How do we make sure that we bring in those that are probably going to contribute to this country in a law-abiding way?
That's too easy.
Well, it is.
That's too
it's
easy.
A process.
All you have to do is increase the quotas coming from the various countries legally.
Absolutely.
That's all you have to do. That was simple.
But we don't do that. We go the other way.
Well, why don't we do that?
But we do this so often. We cut out the Chinese completely. We cut the Irish. We went and did the same thing with Russian immigrant Jews. We said there was only so many allowed. And now this current president has dramatically reduced the number being allowed to come in.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you. I am going to interrupt you because, I'm the guest.
Well, and you should.
So here's the interruption.
I'm Irish. You get to interrupt.
No, well, I grew up with a lot of Irish, and so I understand a lot of what you were saying. Irish need not apply. Dates back to okay.
And bless you.
And what you forgot to say during that time was that the Irish were Catholics, and it was really Catholics need not apply.
Even more so than that. And that was even before the Italians came in.
That's true. All right, so here comes my interrupt. It's very easy to raise the quotas.
Yes.
To bring citizens in legally.
Yes.
To have them go through a transition process to citizenship. Mm-hmm. They got to come in legally. They got to apply in their own countries. Yep. So let's say, for argument's sake, I'm making up a number, so nobody quote me on this number. Let's say, for argument's sake, we say 100,000 immigrants can come in this year from country X. Okay. 100,000 immigrants can apply in their countries. How they decide who gets to the front of that line is none of our business.
Well, it kind of is in the embassies.
Well, I'm saying it's none of our business, because once they come to our border, we get to choose. We get to see, not so much choose. We get to see, do they qualify to be coming into this country? Are they willing to transition like the Irish did, like the Catholics did, like the Swedes did? And maybe some others.
Well, so you bring up a really big point. See, we already have a quota system, and I think it'd be an easy bureaucratic fix with enough political pressure to up the quotas. But I do worry. I really do worry myself. Jeff Sessions actually had a very articulate explanation for his vote against a certain specific quota reach in his state of Alabama about a decade ago that he's still gotten flack from. Is my concern is that some cultures are much more willing to adopt Americanism, American culture than others are. For example, I do not speak Polish. My father does not speak Polish because our Polish immigrant grandparents refused to speak the language in the home and would look at my father and say, "You are American, you will speak English." How many immigrants do we know from other countries that have been in the United States of America for 25 plus years and do not speak English?
Tons.
These enclaves
Absolutely.
happen,
Sure.
and they become miniature versions of their home countries instead of improved integrated versions of multiculturally experiencing citizens in transition. And that's a concern of mine, because then we've created a system where transition isn't happening. And it does happen only in kind of like this underground fashion, because since the quotas are low, everybody knows you can come to America however you want. I mean, I literally have friends that talk about when they go back home, they have to save up the $2,000, which is the going rate right now, to have a coyote smuggle them back in. So they save up money here, and they've gone to and fro 11, 12, 13 times, right? So my only concern is that we've created a system in which if you try legally, you must be rich. You have to be rich in your home country to be able to gain citizenship, to be able to meander through the bureaucracy and have enough money to support yourself in the process. And if you come here, you have to make $10,000 to $15,000, which is the going rate, to be able to hire an immigration lawyer in order to naturalize yourself.
Why would you need an immigration lawyer?
If you've come illegally is what I'm referencing.
Oh.
Because we do have to take care of this massive amount of people that are already here, okay? And I don't see a way of doing that without an expenditure of a major amount of wealth in a way, to me, that somewhat seems unfair to an individual. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't, because go back historically. If we look at the America, we had a lot of immigrants who came in initially in the 1800s. English was not their native language. I mean, if you look at the Irish, one of the things that's so fascinating about them is they hated the fact that they had to speak English. It came from their dominant oppressors who came in, who helped manipulate the loss of over 1 million of them to famine. So quite frankly, speaking English was not something they did willingly. They did it because it was required to make the transition to be American.
Okay, so
But it didn't necessarily happen in one generation. Why do we demand that people give up their Hungarianism, their Panamanism, their Chinese background, and immediately integrate into becoming, in quote, American? And
no, I
what
don't-
the
We don't
heck
demand that.
is
We-
American?
that's what's great about America. We don't demand it.
Thank
Look at
you.
Bill. He
We
looks
don't
like
demand
everything
it.
Jorge
But
Ramos wishes he was.
Thank you, Bill. That's it. We don't demand
We
this.
don't demand it.
This is the land of
Okay,
the free.
so here's-
we don't require you to be, quote, American, whatever that is.
So here's my question, immediately relevant to what happened this week. We've got the big family separation thing.
Yes.
Okay, and everybody pretty much agrees that it's traumatizing for the children. I have reserved judgment a little bit, only because I think something has to stop what many sociologists have called the slow invasion. We get 10,000 a month. Some months we'll get 50,000. Even with our legal numbers, we're hitting 1 million immigrants a year, which is a rate faster than we apparently are able to integrate them well into our society.
Who came up with that integrate them well? Look at the Germans. They've brought in 1.5 million out of the Syria-Turkey pipeline.
And
in
Merkel
about a
is
year
on
and a
the
half.
coals for it.
Oh, wait a second. First off,
Merkel's struggling with re-election because of that.
crime is at the lowest level since 1998 in
And
Germany.
Pinochet
I was
Pinochet had the
born.
lowest crime in South America
Okay.
for a decade.
I was born in Germany. I have a lot of German relatives. I'm going to tell you right now, for the Germans, we had already accepted the East Germans into
Yeah,
West
but also
Germany.
I don't think the German argument is a very
By the
good
way,
argument.
that was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. What Germany did in reuniting the two sides
They
was
did.
absolutely economically
I don't know how they pulled it off.
impossible
But
to
also,
do.
it's-
Absolutely.
I'll tell you this right
There
now.
is-
And
I
they
spent
did it.
4 years there as an adult. I don't know how they pulled it
Well,
off.
then you'll be able to speak
but
to this.
they did.
You'll be able to speak to this. The German example, I think, is a very poor example because as you lived there for a period of time, so did I. I was actually at Babelsberg Studios when they were filming a couple of films there because, ironically, taxes are so high in Hollywood that the film The Apparition was actually set in a Palmdale suburban house, but instead of going to Palmdale in LA County and actually filming there, they built the set in Germany. All right? A Palmdale suburb was built at Babelsberg Studios, the same place where they filmed Inglourious
I
Basterds.
knew you'd
And
get a
was made
tax
there.
issue in on this.
You know, so taxes are so high, we're chasing work to Germany. So anyway, I was there briefly for 3 or 4 different films, okay, spread out over a long period of time. And the only reason why I don't think it's fair to compare German examples is because the German people are a beautiful, lovely people. I love Germans. But the worldwide the worldwide media through movies, fiction, literature, everything has so brutalized them and created such a guilt complex because of the Nazi issue that they are so hypersensitive, so self-aware of anything that may be perceived as racially biased that
You're calling
they're
the
not
Germans, my homeland, kind, considerate, nice people.
Yes.
I'm going to let you know that having been there in the 50s and having back in the 70s and 80s, I would never refer to my fellow Germans as kind and considerate. Let me tell you how the bus stop works in Germany. You've got 30 people lined up, of which 2
they've
are
all
little
showed up
old
early.
ladies. No, they all have been there. They've been waiting patiently. The bus doors open, and everybody runs to the front of the bus. They beat on the little old lady. The little old lady's using her umbrella. She's whacking away at them because Germans don't wait in line for anybody, and they knock everybody aside.
All right,
They are
so
not
you did do
that.
the disclaimer, right, for Carl
yeah.
and Jerry and KHTS?
Yeah.
Okay.
But since then, they've become transformed. They are now a peaceful, loving people. But more importantly,
that's
they
what you
have,
call the take back.
the take back. They have shown, as they could put on a uniform, they also can adapt. But their numbers are so small in terms of a population accepting 1.5 million people. For us to accept 1 million, we have the ability and the land that no other country has, with the exception of Russia. And for some reason, the Russians want to leave there and come here. I can't imagine
So, okay,
why.
well, so let's boil this down basically to what happened this week. We're talking specifically about family separation. And so I got a question for you, Bill. Has this had is there any tentacle that stretches into Santa Clarita? Because what's interesting with me is I was listening to an interview with Antonio Villaraigosa, who was talking about how he didn't even know that there were several detention centers that were holding children in Los Angeles that he knew about. So does this have a tentacle that spreads into Santa Clarita to the best of your knowledge or no?
Well, it spreads to everywhere. It spreads to everywhere. It spreads to Colorado, to Kansas, to Nebraska, to Santa Clarita, everywhere. Because tearing people apart, whether, right now we're talking about children. What about husbands and wives?
Right.
What about grown-up children and grandparents?
Yeah.
Tearing families apart is a passionate issue. It
Yeah.
will always be a passionate issue.
Yeah, I was actually told by the state when I was 17 years old that I was going to get separated from my sister when there was this stupid lawsuit against the county sheriffs that we were involved in, and I had to threaten to kidnap my sister before they let me stay together.
Well,
I
think
completely
it
understand
still
how
traumatizes you. You talk about it. You're very passionate.
I was 17 years old, and I was having to tell the U.S. government that I would kidnap my sister and live with her with a friend long before I let them separate us in the foster care system.
Wow.
So, I completely understand that family separation is something that cannot be taken lightly. But I look at this and I think, what is the deterrent to coming illegally? What is the deterrent? How can we never vilify the parents that subject their children to this journey, the parents that are willing to pay coyotes that they know are abusers? They know there's sequestered children in there where people are using kids to cross the border. These aren't kids. These are distant cousins, distant sisters. And once we get here, the hope is they're going to dump them off with the abuela. But if they can't find the abuela, they literally just dump the kid. So I look at this and I think, yes, we all saw the little girl on the Time magazine cover. Our heart all goes out to the little girl. Just like when you saw the children who were
But
walking
you know
up
that
on
little girl on the cover.
She was
wasn't
never
the little
actually
girl.
separated.
No, and the wonderful thing is the agent in that case made the compassionate issue, once he had frisked the mom and done the pat down, had confirmed that they didn't need to be separated. And I give him great credit for doing it correctly. This was put together to symbolize. But let's face it, we have to find a better way to address it than zero tolerance. Because to sit there and say the families are wrong because the dad or mom made the decision to uproot their family and bring them from a hostile environment going hundreds or thousands of miles in very difficult conditions so that they can try and get into this land of the free. Wait a second. I cannot fault people who are leaving a place that's got problems.
No, we're not trying
crime.
to fault them.
No, but to even say they're wrong for attempting to break them, I wouldn't be here if my families didn't do just that. They left England, Germany, Ireland because they were tired of the wars, the violence, the oppression, the
Irishmen.
Oh, my gosh, the English were destroying the country. And quite frankly, they were taking the land. They wouldn't let the Irish own the land. They were trying to get them to not practice their religion. They were killing them in a variety of ways. The issue that 1 million plus were starved to death, come on, and when they had the ability to feed them, listen, people have a reason to leave a country. If a man or a wife are willing to take their children through that hostile environment just to try for an opportunity, I'm willing to listen to them.
Yeah, I get that, but we only got like one more minute here. So we'll think about this, I guess, during the commercial break and have to come back and talk through it. But the reason why I don't fault the president or anybody in the administration for trying to attempt a zero tolerance approach is because anybody that knows the immigration process knows that once it gets out that a certain line, a certain phrase, or a certain something works, then that's what all of them hit up. My friend who worked in the Filipino embassy, he said, I don't know who said it, but once it got through that a sick grandmother needs care, that week, I had 100 people say, oh, my grandma's sick in the United States and she needs care when they're applying for their visa. So you look at the stats and the number of people using children to seek asylum in the United States of America has gone up 314%. And the number of people claiming family status when they're trying to cross the border and they're checking into the ports of entry and they're checking in with the Border Patrol has gone up 1,700%. We're talking 1,700%, which tells us that there has to be some kind of dishonesty in these numbers, and it's gotten out that using kids is a way to get into the United States if the legal way isn't working. So how do we stop it? This is problem solver politics. How do we stop it? If we don't want zero tolerance, what do we want? Because it just creates a loophole if you don't do zero tolerance. So I want to know, and I'm going to ask this to Bill when he gets back, and then all you listeners out there
can
be like getting angry about this. I want to know what the
Call your
the
friends and neighbors,
is.
have them listen to the show.
I'm going to tell you because I'm going to shut him down. I know what it's about.
Brace yourselves. This is Problem Solver Politics.
Every year, thousands of local children, teens, and adults receive treatment at the Child and Family Center for depression, anger, anxiety, abuse, thoughts of suicide, and drug and alcohol addictions. Our professional staff provides outpatient services at office locations, in the home, the community, and on many elementary, junior, and high school campuses throughout our valley. If you need help, contact Child and Family Center at 259-9439 or childfamilycenter.org. Improving lives, one family at a time.
Your hometown station.
Our news team at KHTS is constantly working to keep you informed. If you want the latest and greatest information on the Santa Clarita Valley, just sign up for the KHTS newsletter. SCV News delivered directly to your email inbox every weekday by 5 p.m. and a special weekend edition on Sundays. All it takes is an email address and you're set. Go to hometownstation.com to register.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Men, are you feeling tired, stressed, or just don't have the energy you used to? Did you know this could be related to decreased testosterone levels? Luckily, there's a safe, effective solution. Weeder Prime helps support healthy testosterone levels with clinically tested key ingredients. Just 2 capsules of Weeder Prime each day can help change your mood, energy, focus, body fat, and lean muscle. Feel the way you felt 10, 20, even 30 years ago. Rediscover your Prime with Weeder Prime. To find a retailer near you, visit WeederPrime.com. That's WEIDER Prime.com.
At Jersey Mike's, we think there's a whole lot of wow to be found between 2 layers of fresh baked bread. Like, wow, this sub sandwich sure has a little something something special. And wow, Juice does for sub sandwiches what spinach does for a certain well-known sailor man. Because we never just make a sub. Every sub we make is a sub above. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Your Santa Clarita Jersey Mike's, a proud sponsor of Santa Clarita High School football.
All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. We are talking about the latest immigration policies, family separation, immigration quotas, the whole 9 yards. And we have called in my passionate and compassionate friend, Mark Murphy, to talk a little bit with Bill Miranda about what the solutions he thinks are to this problem. Because he's got unique insight, man. I mean, this guy, I believe you said you were born in New York?
Born and raised in New York City in Manhattan.
And now you're in Santa Clarita. You know what I'm saying? He goes from the hotbed to awesome town. You're getting the whole East Coast, West Coast in
That's
a cool
right.
shirt vibe, man. So take it away. We talked a little bit over the break about what some solutions you think you are. Mark, tee him up.
Well, Bill, I lived in New York City for 2 years. My dad used to say, you can hear every language spoken in the world within a block of New York City.
Pretty much.
Okay, so here we are. You're in a land of immigrants, of a land of change. This is a dramatically challenging problem. What's your perspective on zero-tolerance policy or family separation? What are we dealing with here?
Well, I don't know that I want to talk about zero tolerance, because once you get into that, then you know, are you going to be tolerant of the burglar that burglarizes your house? Are you going to be tolerant of the person who, you know, grabs your wife and, you know, molests her or something? No, I don't believe in
the speeding ticket or the speeder.
Well, exactly. And so when it comes to the border, people are going to cross the border illegally because there's a need to get away from the lives that they have. And that's been since the beginning of time. That is nothing new. That just happens to be our problem in this era. Here's what I'm going to tell you. People are coming across the border illegally, and we're not apprehending them. All right? And they come to this country and they find a home and they figure it out and they get a job, again, illegally, and that's... We're not disturbing that as a society. What we want to disturb, and this is what SB 54 and our vote about SB 54 was all about, what we want to make sure is that if they come here illegally and that they commit a crime that they get arrested for, that we have the ability to tell the local ICE agencies, come and get these guys. These are bad dudes. Get them out of the country. We want that ability. SB 54 says, no, you cannot tell ICE anything. You can arrest them, and when they come out, you cannot inform ICE that they're coming out.
So do you think that at
It's
the border,
about criminals?
do you think at the border, like Trump
Exactly,
suggested in his
it
tweet,
is
we should be able to just say, look, go home, we caught you? I think you should be able to, if you catch somebody in the act, it's that whole
absolutely.
probable cause thing. Do you think somebody at the border, if you catch, even if it's just a family of 5, no matter how compassionate their circumstance, it's like, I'm sorry, you have to do this the legal way.
Yeah.
You got to go back.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do, at the border. But once they're in and they're adjusting to their new living situation,
Then it becomes different because
then it becomes very difficult.
it's kind of like you've captured the flag. Now we have to treat you different.
Well,
I really kind of think of it that
but
way.
also, Bill, we've had ICE, particularly under the current administration, and they're just not the only ones, going in and disrupting families' homes where someone had a parking ticket or had
but wait a minute.
Oh, but that's not
no,
true.
exactly.
That's
I got to
not
interrupt
true.
you right away. First of all, when you say under the current administration, you're basically saying all the previous administrations that did exactly the same thing.
Oh, I agree. They all have done this. It's just that now.
Why did you
there's
say
higher
under the
visibility.
current administration?
Well, because
we've been doing it for 4 administrations.
True, but we're now pushing it harder. There seems to be an increase.
I don't think we're pushing
in
it harder.
ICE
I think the media is after Trump, and they're trying to use
we can't make
anything
this
and
stuff up.
anybody as leverage. No, yeah, we can make this stuff up. Had they pursued Barack Obama as hard as the media pursues Donald Trump, they would have. They would have seen pictures of kids in dog kennels. Obama had kids in dog kennels. I mean, Trump's at least renting warehouses and putting child seats in nice vans when he gets busted.
So, Mark, I'm going to ask you the question that I heard a CNN reporter and an MSNBC reporter, imagine that, ask on television, and that is this. Where was the outrage during the Obama administration when the same thing that's happening now was happening then?
Should have been there. It should have been there in 1942.
But it wasn't there. All of a sudden, this enormous outrage.
We changed. Because 1942, where was the outrage when we took 1 million of our people and put them away? Why do we look at when Ike pulled people off the streets of L.A., when he went in for his runs against the Hispanics?
You know what?
Where was the outrage?
As Bill O'Reilly used to say, don't justify bad behavior by pointing to other bad behavior.
Exactly, and this is the same case
during
during Obama.
We're also talking about 70 years ago.
But we should have protested.
Yeah, but we're talking.
We should have done something to change
it. And where was the government when it was 100%, or not 100%, but it was one party had total control of Congress, as it does now. On the other side, they did nothing. And now all of a sudden there's total control on this side. And you know what? They're doing nothing.
I mean, this literally blows my mind.
They need to do something, but the way they approached it is mind-boggling. They showed a lack of compassion. When you put in place a zero tolerance, this is the real key thing.
But hold on a second.
Previous years,
they haven't done anything that Obama's administration didn't do, that Bush's administration didn't
but they
do.
only processed less than 3%. And here they were trying to process all of them as being a major criminal act. And as a result of processing, they're putting these guys in a position where they're not going to be able to come back. But more importantly, they're now being incarcerated and treated as criminals in a way they weren't
I'm
before.
going to take this somewhere else, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a bigger problem here. And the bigger problem is, what are we going to do with 11 million, guesstimate, 11 million illegal aliens in the United States? That's a bigger problem.
Absolutely.
Okay? We can nickel and dime each other all day long about what's happening at the border or what's happening here, or even SB 54. Okay. The bigger problem is 11 million undocumented, as my people like to say,
and probably
undocumented workers.
3 or 4 million of those are right here.
So what are we going to do about them? Are we going to give them access to becoming a citizen over time? Are we going to penalize them? Are we going to do this, that, or something? Let's do something.
Well, tell me.
Let's give them an opportunity to figure it out.
Exactly. Well, riddle me this. I've actually thought a lot about this, and the show is called Problem Solver Politics, and we should put this on a piece of paper and send it to Congressman Steve Knight and everybody in Washington.
By the way, Steve Knight, I heard what you said at the beginning of the show, the $47 million he got. In 2 weeks after you talked to him, that was awesome.
Well, and we're not going to.
I'll take credit if I can.
No, we will, but I mean, by his own admission, he took 8 or 9 months and he couldn't get any response out of the administration. I don't know if he sent him a little clip or what.
I sent him a clip where we're mentioning her by name, right?
By name. But I do believe very strongly it isn't simply a problem of the border side. We know that whether you send back 50,000 or you send back 1,000, the problem is we do have millions that need a method so they can contribute to this country.
Well, okay, you mentioned, yes, they do need a method. I want to talk about the method, but Bill brought up something very interesting where he said we're not trying to interrupt those that are good and nice, basically. We're trying to interrupt the criminal element. But I think we need to even interrupt the good and nice element because 8% of hospitals in California shut down 8% due to financial issues generated from illegal immigrants, whether it's that quote-unquote anchor babies or whether it's not. I mean, you try and go to Henry Mail right here.
Let me tell you something.
My dad had his.
If you want to talk about shutting down, 80% of the restaurants in the country would shut down if you got rid of illegal immigrants.
No,
so let's not go
we
there.
wouldn't have a yard mowed.
No, I'm not trying to say that, they're bad or this is bad or that's bad, but I'm saying there's massive infrastructural problems here, even with legal immigration, because you mention that, yes, okay, we've all seen the funny show, A Day Without a Mexican, the Robert Rodriguez documentary. Yes, our
Everyone
society,
should see it.
especially in Southern California, would fail without our beloved Mexican brothers and sisters. But also, many things are failing. LA Unified School District is struggling because on the books, it's only getting the tax income for 20 children in a class, but 34 children show up. So they're having to carry a load with the pay for 20 of 34. Hospitals aren't being able to get the same access to funds as equal to their population because not all the population is on the books. So we have to, out of compassion for our own people and theirs, okay, get this organized. I think, just as only Reagan and Bush have done amnesty, and I think, unfortunately, Republicans are going to have to swallow the amnesty pill one more time, but there has to be some serious concessions by Democrats. I think it would be fair to say if you've been here 10 years, you have a certain time where you got to register, kind of DACA style. And there should be a year-long period of where we get everybody on the books that we can. And if you can show us some kind of utility bill, you can show us a time-stamped picture of you in the rental apartment or whatever, and you've been here for a longer period of time than what most Americans would consider enough to be considered a permanent resident, then you can begin that process. Because if not, there's no other way. Deportation is off the table.
The only thing I can really argue about that is I don't like the term amnesty because it's not amnesty. If you're making someone pay, whether financially or through extra work or requirements, whatever, if you're making someone pay, that's not amnesty anymore. That's they're paying to become American citizens, and they're doing the work to become American citizens. And so, Republicans have a thing, or not most Republicans, but certainly the far right Republicans have a thing with, well, amnesty's bad, and anything that makes him a citizen or gives him a pass of citizenship
it's too unforgiving.
Is bad. No, you got to get over that. And just like on the left, open borders, right? Get rid of that too. You problem solver. You guys are problem solvers. Meet in the middle, okay? Talk to your brothers on the right. Talk to your brothers on the left. Meet in the middle.
All right.
These people are not going to be thrown out of the country. We're not going to let that happen.
All right. Bill Miranda has spoken. Ain't going to let it happen. Come to us next week. We're going to follow up with this next week, I am sure. This is Problem Solver Politics. Loved having you here. Come back next week.